Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Power Gunner, and this is my review of Contrast, a game that I finished recently. I don't know why I'm talking in this my accent changed way too much there. My cat's meowing, as always, in like every commentary video I make. Isn't it great? But yeah, Contrast is a game that came out in 2014 at the PS4 launch. I have it on PS4, but it is also on PlayStation 3, PC, and Xbox 360. It's actually not on Xbox One. Probably some deal they had with Sony, but Xbox One users, don't worry, you aren't missing out, and if you really want it, you could just get it on Xbox 360. And by the way, when I got this game, it was free with PlayStation Plus, so why not get it, right? So this game is really interesting because it's both a 2D and a 3D platformer combined in one. That idea in the game is one of the coolest ideas that I've heard for a game, and it's actually very original. And how this game does that is you are in a 3D world, but you can turn into a shadow on the wall where there's other shadows, and it's like a 2D platformer with the shadows being the platforming things. By the way, my cat that is meowing, her name is Smidge. You didn't need to know that, but now you do. So this game takes place in a 1920s styled place, at least, because it's not for sure if it, I don't know, actually happens in reality. It's not really historical fiction, but yeah, pretty much in the 1920s era. There is a little girl named Dee Dee, and she has family problems. That's the story of the game. The character that you are Dawn, who is Dee Dee's imaginary friend, or at least I think that's what it was. The ending of the game kind of explains a little bit more about it, but it never fully explains things. And of course, I'm not giving away the ending, even though it's not really anything that you should care about. I'm still not gonna spoil it, cause that's just wrong. So anyways, as Dawn, you help Dee Dee try to fix her family problems. And that's basically the story. The story isn't very interesting. The acting, it's kind of okay, but it's not the best. I feel like if this game had really good acting, then maybe the story could have been interesting, but it's just kind of a boring story. Also, the story is quite confusing and hard to follow at many points in it. And who's her dad or something? What? I'm pretty sure that in the end I knew who her dad was and who wasn't her dad. But it was very confusing throughout the game when I thought it had already explained it. And yeah, the characters are pretty much really boring, not very interesting people. The game's just the story is just boring. There's nothing really exciting about it. It's just a girl with family problems. So I guess it's kind of like in real life, except for hopefully in real life you don't have family problems this bad, but in games we want stories that are different from real life so that we can experience things that we most likely won't experience in our lives. And that's part of what's awesome about video games. So when a game is boring and kind of like a realistic situation, not exactly realistic I'd say, but a situation that will probably happen to some degree in your real life, except for it won't be as extreme as in the game, then that makes the story just not as fun compared to other video games where there are things that probably won't happen, but you get to experience them in a video game and do it in real life. I'm kind of repeating myself there, but I think that's a good point. All of the characters in this game, except for Dee Dee, are invisible, and you just see their shadows on the walls when light is projected at them. I've mentioned that this game is like a platformer puzzle game, and the basic idea for this game, the turning into a shadow and having both a 2D and a 3D platformer, is a very good idea. I think it's very, very original. I don't think I've heard of other games doing anything quite like this, but most of the puzzles are really boring and aren't that good and not made well. So if there's a puzzle game like that, and if it doesn't have an interesting story and doesn't have interesting gameplay, it's pretty much just not going to be a fun game. And also, the controls are something that I am complaining about. Most of the controls are actually quite good and fitting in normal controls, but one of the main controls that you use, which is how you shift into the shadow world and then out of it again, is you press R2 which I think this wasn't the best choice for a button to use. I think maybe square could have been better, maybe circle or triangle, one of the face buttons, but X is already jump, and X needs to be jump in games. That's just kind of an obvious thing, I guess, but one of the, like, face buttons, I guess you call them, would be much better than using a trigger for this. It just doesn't feel right for what you're doing. And also, that control seems to be unresponsive, and sometimes being a shadow is kind of glitchy because you get knocked out of being in a shadow back into the 3D world for no reason sometimes, and that can really ruin your puzzle thing that you were working on and mess you up. But there's one part of the game that I actually really liked and thought was a very good small section of the game, and that's where you are in a sort of shadow puppet show, I guess I could say, where it is the story of a princess and a prince who sucks at being a prince and a knight, pretty much. And it's really interesting, and it's really fun, because in there's comedy, which isn't really in the rest of the game.
Chasms filled with razor-sharp bamboo. Unfortunately, she impaled herself on the bamboo. Wait, that's not what happened.
There's a nice style and just a nice feel, and it's quite interesting except for the glitchiness that I talked about earlier, where you get knocked out of the shadow world. That actually happens a lot in that part of the game, but that was definitely my favorite part of the game. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So with the graphics in this game, the graphics aren't next gen, so if you're expecting the best looking next gen game, this isn't what you're going to be getting. But in my opinion, for this game, and most games in general, how HD the graphics look really doesn't matter, but it's more the art style and graphic style of the game that has to fit well with the whole, like, premise, I guess, of the game. And with this game, the art style fits quite well. I'm not sure if it's perfectly or anything, but it does fit very well, and it has a kind of interesting art style. It's like a 1920s art style, kind of Paris-ish, I'd say, and I'm guessing that this is just because you're in the sort of, like, shadow realm to where you can't see people except for Dee Dee. The city looks very weird and distorted because the roads just slump off into nothingness, and there's this huge void and, like, floating parts of the city. It's actually like a small city. I wouldn't consider this game to be open world, but sometimes it feels open world just because the game is quite short and there's not many levels to it, so just because the map doesn't change out that much, it felt open world when I first started playing it, but that would be a sort of small open world, but it's not actually an open world game. But I will give this to the game. It does have some really good art style in it. Also, the music in the game is quite fitting with the time era and stuff, although it's not music that I'm going to download and listen to on my own or anything, but it fits with the game. And because of these things, the game is immersive enough for what it needs to be for, like, this particular game, I guess. So the world is kind of immersive, except for the fact, and I'm going to get to this here soon, the only thing that isn't immersive about it is that the game is boring, which pretty much makes it not immersive. So it's kind of contradicting. One thing that I don't like in this game is that all of the things that you need to interact with and all of the collectibles are in plain sight, and they're always sparkling so that you know where they are, so it's pretty easy to find the collectibles and things to interact with. This isn't as much of a problem with finding things to interact with. It's actually kind of nice, but with finding collectibles, it doesn't really feel like you're finding them, but more like the game is finding them for you and showing you where they are. But in a way, looking at this, it's kind of a good thing that they highlight the things that you need to do next for interacting with certain things, because then you get to finish this game faster and move on to better games. Which, finishing this game faster is a pretty good thing because I didn't like it that much. So as far as gameplay goes, there's a few other things put into this other than just jumping and turning into shadows. There is a dash move that you can do in the 3D worlds, which can give you, like, longer jumps and, like, break through some, like, wooden things, which was surprisingly not used that much, but that's how it was initially introduced. But it was pretty much useless in the game, and you, like, only used it a few times, I think. And you can also dash through some shadows in the shadow world, which became more useful than dashing in the 3D world in general, but it still didn't feel like it was fun or good gameplay. Now, there are also boxes in this platformer puzzle game, which is very unoriginal, and boxes, like, I'm talking about boxes that you pick up and put on buttons and things. Boxes, we've seen, can actually be used in a good way that doesn't feel boring and unoriginal and super cliche. We've seen in the Portal games that is actually used very well, but in this game it's not. It's just a very basic game mechanic that is not used very well in the game, and really just makes the game really boring. The puzzles aren't really fun to solve in this game, and that's part of the reason why, I would guess. So it's kind of weird how some things in the platforming and puzzle aspect, such as the boxes, are not original at all in this game, but yet the main idea is. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it doesn't do the boxes and puzzles thing well. I found that I got more and more irritated with this game as it went on, because the puzzles got somewhat harder to figure out. Like, not exactly harder, but it took you longer to figure them out. So I went on YouTube and looked for how to get past those parts, because I didn't want to spend my precious time trying to find out how to do it on my own, which is something that I do with every other game that I will enjoy. But with this game, I would rather just finish this game and get it over than actually have the feeling of figuring out the puzzles on my own. And one other thing that's weird is, it felt like this game was dragging on, but the game's only 3 hours long. So that's definitely a bad thing, and just shows how boring it is and how this game could have actually even been a lot shorter. There's not much to do in the game other than that, really. You're just playing through that, which, that's understandable. It's a $15 game, or, well, I got it for free because of PlayStation Plus. But I said there are the collectibles that are easy to find and not worth your time. They will get you some trophies, but the trophies in this game don't really matter that much. There aren't that many trophies. They're all bronze trophies. There's like no platinum trophy or silver or golds. They're all bronze, so that really takes some of the fun trophy hunting aspect out of it, to where you don't really care to get the trophies, and you don't care to spend time in the game, and you just want to finish it or quit it. Yeah, but really there's nothing to care about in this game, except for the princess part, which was kind of interesting, which I'm almost to talking to that. But yeah, this game was very boring. I wanted it to be over sooner and sooner and sooner, and when it finally was, I was glad, and I instantly deleted it from my PlayStation. Yeah, I'm going to delete Contrast. I don't want to ever play it again. I'm sorry. And the only reason why I did a Let's Play of this game and even played it and didn't just quit on it was because I felt like I should finish it, well, you know, because I was doing a Let's Play, and why I did the Let's Play was because that I really didn't have any games on PS4. I didn't have any disc games when I started playing this. I only had this and Resogun, which I also reviewed that, and that game is much better than this, but both games are fairly short and not much to do in them. But anyways, just as a kind of summary, some elements and ideas in this game are good, but overall this game is very boring and is not well executed, and it just makes you wish that it was over. And the princess part, I'm going to talk about it a bit more here in a way on what I thought of it. This part, honestly, I think this part could have been its own game. I think it was that good and that interesting, but yet it was put into this game. Like, it's kind of a mini game, but it's put into this game that is not good. And if this was made into a game, I think that this could be a good game too, not just a like mediocre game. And why is because the jokes that are in this, that there's pretty much no comedy in the rest of the game. There is good platforming for most of it, and the story is very interesting, and it's pretty much the most diverse gameplay that you will get in the game. But overall, this game is boring. And now time for the score of this game. This game gets the score review rating thing of bad. This is actually one of the higher up bad games, I'd say, but it's not quite good enough to be the level of okay on my rating system. So yeah, this isn't free anymore on PlayStation Plus. I would recommend you don't buy it for $15 unless you think it looks interesting, but you'll have to think that it looks really interesting if you want to get it. So basically, don't get this game. I would not recommend it. It's just a poorly executed game with good idea and one good princess part, which was a really funny and good part of the game that could even be its own game, which, if they actually choose to make that its own game and make it good, then I would be interested in playing that. I don't really know the studio that made this game. Maybe I'll go look it up now, but I probably won't, because I'm kind of uninterested, just because this game bored me to death. But yeah, that is my review of Contrast. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, then please click the dislike button. Just kidding. But anyways, yeah, this game bored me. Glad I'm over with it. Already said that 10 million times. And there's nothing really left to say. So, goodbye guys, have a great day.